Thank you, media, for joining. Questions for head coach Derek Fisher. We'll start with Doug Feinberg, Associated Press.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you.
Thanks, Doug.
Was it relaxing, refreshing to get a couple days off in this crazy schedule you guys have to recharge the batteries a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to try and take advantage of that time when you have it. It's going to be rare in this particular season. It's trying to rest, recover, and but also continue to build. In a shortened season is also important. So, after taking a step back on Sunday and and the fact that we had an afternoon game on Saturday, I think that kind of helped, give us an additional, block of hours where we got a chance to recover. And then we did a little bit yesterday and then we got after it a little bit more today. So, hopefully we can, get things started and get the timing and rhythm back that comes with playing games every other day that you lose sometimes when you're away from it too long.
Adam Grossbart, LA Daily News.
Derek, there's always a balance every year between like how much do you just focus on your own team versus how much do you prepare for the team you're about to play. How different is that balance just given the circumstances of this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think that with the games, so close together, the fact that you're going to play teams twice, there's only so much, to gain. And this is just in my opinion and the way I approach it, from, over analyzing what your opponent may try and get accomplished against you and, not be really solid and set in your fundamentals, your principles, the way you want to get things done, and how you plan to take the game, to your opponent. So we try and strike the balance as best as we can, but I'm not sure how much good it does you to master your opponent and not understand exactly who you are and what you can and can't do. And so it's tricky, but we try and respect the process as much as we can, respect our opponents, plan and prepare. But, we really try to remind our team that most of the time it's really about us and the decisions we make. And if we practice the right way, we'll be prepared for anything that we'll see in the game.
Ross Golden-Wude with Twitter Sports.
Hey, Derek. What's up? It's Roz. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Wanted to ask about Sydney. What impresses you most about her growth in the opportunity as a player and then also as a leader this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sydney, finds a way to just consistently be who she is as a person, and I think that carries over into her play. Just like all of us, we have good days, bad days, highs and lows. But Sydney's a person of character, integrity, and faith that allows her to just remain stable and solid emotionally, physically, and has a really good balance to herself, a great personality and a person to be around. And I think that those things, by example, allow her to take on a level of leadership and respect in the locker room where all of our players really value her energy, her perspective, what she brings. She doesn't overly talk and overuse her words. So when she does speak up, I think her teammates have a lot of respect for the things that she has to offer.
I'll go to Nikki K with Spectrum.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for taking time today. Quick question for you. Two-parter here. What was your biggest takeaway from Dr. Barbara Ferrer's conversation last night? And then I guess being in this bubble, do you feel like you've grown in terms of your edification on what you want to do with the Change Has No Off-Season campaign? And what are you absorbing while you're down there?
To the first question, I think the biggest takeaway for me last night was, her response to a question about what we can do, as a community to fight, COVID and some of the things that we're battling against. And her response was not a medical response. It really, she said, we have to organize for justice. And I thought that was really profound in the way that she responded in that way. and I think that was moving and reminding of how important it is to, even in battles for health and equality, in terms of, COVID, how it's disproportionately affected Black and brown people and folks in underserved communities. If we don't organize for justice comprehensively, then health will lose out. And so I thought that was really profound in her response. I think the second part, I think being here, I think it's created a greater sense of community with the WNBA as a whole, in particular for me being in my second season, learning to appreciate how impactful these women really are in basketball, in society, how they've led a lot of movement and voices and platforms for justice and for change for many years. And now we're all talking about it and we're all having these conversations, but a lot of these women have been on the front line, long before it was cool to be there. And so I think, deepening my value, respect, and appreciation for who they are and what they stand for, and in particular the players on our team, getting a chance to know them closely through the things that are important to them. It's, been a situation that was really unsettling and a lot of uncertainty and unknown coming in. And I do believe it's, elevated a sense of community that we're all experiencing while we're here.
Time for two more. John W. Davis with Winsider.
Good West Coast afternoon to you, Coach Fisher. How you doing?
I'm good, John. How you doing, man?
Doing well, doing well. As an analytical person who I know, sometimes you can be in your own thoughts. What would you like to do different in the last 12 games of the season? How can Coach Derek Fisher improve?
No, it's a great question. I mean, it's one that I ask myself every day, and that we ask of our players on a daily basis. How can we push this place forward? Every time we come together, at night when we're apart, what are we thinking about? What are we talking about? How are we getting better? I think for me personally, the most important thing that I can do is continue to build relationships of trust and respect and compassion with our players and our family, our Sparks family that's here at IMG, and even our folks back in LA. Time brings on different things, wins, losses, championships, years where you don't get it done, etc. And ultimately, it's the people in your life that you value and that you're able to build quality relationships with. Those are the things that last and have the ability to last forever, beyond the success or the years where maybe you weren't as successful as you like to be. But the relationships are, when people ask me about, whether or not I miss playing, and I say no, hell no, because my body feels amazing at this point compared to how I felt when I used to wake up the next morning after the game. So this is enjoyable physically, but the part that you miss, that you cannot get back, are the relationships that you develop on a daily basis with that small group of people that you sometimes spend more time with than your actual family. And for me, over the next 12 games, improving and strengthening those relationships with our players that allow them to accept my coaching and my perspective and my voice because they know it's coming from a place of love and value and respect. I think that has a greater chance of moving us forward and giving us a chance to be successful than coming up with 5 additional out of bounds plays that they don't respond to because, we haven't built the kind of relationship that will allow them to respond to the coaching and teaching. So that's what comes to mind first and foremost.
Last question for Coach Ross. Did you have one more?
Yeah, Coach, I'm just interested in the teaching aspect for Taya Cooper. What are you teaching and what is coming natural from what you've seen so far? Those two options.
Yeah, I'll answer probably the latter question first. I mean, what's natural is Coop is just a competitor and she just goes out there and it's in a good way, free of thought or over analysis. There are natural things that she understands about competing and playing hard and just going to get the game, right? Not leaving something to chance. She wants to go after it. And that's something that sometimes is hard to teach. She already has those things. So then when I am offering her information or thoughts or advice, it's trying not to dull that light and dull the natural ability to just go and compete really, really hard because you're not thinking too much. And I personally believe, from my experience as a player, as well as what I've experienced as a coach, players that are thinking aren't playing. And, and so I think in teaching Coop certain things, it's showing her where additional options are, how to read certain situations, but still being patient and giving her room to learn it organically, so that, again, she's not over analyzing things that take away her natural talents and gifts and skills, where she can just go play. And this is a game. This is not anything complicated or should be complicated. And I think Coop naturally has some of those things. So it's a balance. We definitely want her to develop and grow in terms of how to run a team, how to take a look at things offensively and defensively. But again, not too much information too fast, so that she can just naturally grow as she spends more time in this league.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
All right, we'll get started. Questions for Candace Parker.
Eli, did you
Doug.
notice Sophia had to move the camera up after Derek? Did you notice that?
I know it looked like he was looking down, but
No, I'm saying because he's shorter than me. That's what I was saying.
right.
Yeah.
All right, Doug Feinberg, Associated Press.
Hey, Candace, can you talk a little bit about the panel last night and what you took away from it?
Dr. Ferrer was great. I think I learned a lot as an individual just about COVID and social justice and how they're kind of intertwined. Some of the things that she was saying last night in terms of, obviously covering vaping and tobacco and how marketing is different and how pollution is higher in underserved communities and, the rate at which the percentage at which and the times at which that if you're African American, you're high in getting COVID, as well as smoking. But she did provide a lot of solutions for us in terms of what we can do. And I'm really proud to be a part of an organization that isn't just about dribbling the basketball, but has always been about the community and trying to best serve in the community.
Nikki K, Spectrum.
Hey, Candace, another panel related question for you here. After a conversation like that, where you learn so much as a mother, what do you kind of go home and talk to your daughter about? And then the second part to this would be, when in your career did you realize, you're not just a role model as an athlete and as a woman, but as a fellow parent to other parents?
It's interesting because, last night it did bring up a lot of topics that I've already covered, but need to cover more, and talking and communicating with Layla. My nieces and nephews are all of that tween age right now where it's so important to make them understand that it's not just parents trying to tell you something. It's actually through experience and through knowledge. It's unfortunate that we have companies and we have tobacco and vaping that are actually marketing towards children, and they understand the effects that could bring. Both of my grandparents smoked, and both had problems and eventually passed away because of smoking. And so I think I use that as a huge example to my daughter that you're not just yourself deciding to make that choice, you're doing it for your family. And then the second question, so after I worked at Turner for a little bit of time, I actually approached Chuck. I approached Charles Barkley, and I asked him, I was like, yo, what was up with that whole I'm not a role model thing? I feel like athletes are role models. And he was basically saying that I don't want to be a role model just as a basketball player. I don't want you to aspire to be like me as a basketball player, but as an individual and as a person. And I've seen people around me affect so many different people's lives. You talk about what Chuck has done in Alabama, building apartments, donating proceeds to charity. I mean, he's such a benevolent individual. And so I think, yes, I think of myself as a role model, but I hope people don't try to aspire to be like me just as a basketball player, but as an individual person and what I'm doing off the court.
Michelle Vopel, ESPN.
Hi, Candace. I wanted to ask you, follow up on something I was talking to you about the other day in terms of with your broadcasting. If you were sort of to estimate how much video do you watch in a day of basketball? And I know that might change depending on the day if you're playing or not. And do you anticipate there's going to be a day that you're going to do both? I know Eli mentioned you maybe were close to doing that, where you might be doing studio shows after playing if it works out with the schedule. And what kind of a day would that be like for you?
My family will tell you basketball is on 24/7. I eat, sleep, and breathe it. And I don't know if it's changed so much now that I'm a broadcaster. It's just always been that way. I love it. I love the game. I love the different ways it's played. I just love watching it. And my family gets mad because there'll be a game that was played. I'll have watched the entire thing. And then I watched the post-game show to watch the highlights of the game that we just watched. And so my family's probably not very happy about that. But I don't know. I think right now within Turner, I was very adamant about, when I went into this, that the WNBA is going to take precedent over, broadcasting. But this unique situation with the pandemic, allowed an opportunity for me to do both. Normally I'm done at the end of the NBA regular season, but, this year has been different. And so I like to take the challenge. I definitely learned something from whether I'm playing or whether I'm sitting in the analyst seat.
Time for one more for Candace. We'll go to Chris Camello.
Hey, Candace, good afternoon to you. Just kind of piggybacking on the roundtable questions we saw, working with Dr. Ferrer and just kind of picking her brain. Do you see any kind of solutions just based on that conversation that you could do? You talked about your family, but also within the LA community, that when the season is over and you guys are back in LA, that you could see yourself embarking on?
And now until the elections, past the elections, till the next year, to the next year, to the next year, is vote. I think it's so important for us to understand that, yes, we need to unite. And yes, we need to take a look at ourselves in the mirror. And yes, we need to fight for equality. But the way to do that throughout the history of time has been through elections, through voting, through changes that way. And not just at the national level, presidential election, it's also at the state and local. My brother and my sister-in-law both wore stickers today that they voted in the Florida primary. I feel like it's so important to vote and for our kids to see us vote. As excited as kids are at 21 to go out and have their first drink, they need to be just as excited to be able to leave an imprint on their local and state and presidential elections and voting at 18.
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you.
All right, we'll get started. And thank you, media, for your patience. The team does have testing, so we'll have to be a little shorter today. We'll start with Doug Feinberg, Associated Press.
Hey, Nneka.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Good job surprising your sister yesterday. I have a two-part question related to the roundtable. Just your takeaways from the roundtable last night, and if you can put on your presidential hat with all the social justice stuff going on by all the teams around the bubble. Is this what you guys envisioned when you first came down here?
I would have to say it is. It's definitely it's an experience that I wanted to be fulfilled, and I feel as though it is. And coming upon the halfway point of the season, I feel good about what we've done, but we can never do enough. And so being able to be a part of that roundtable, I hope was helpful for many who were able to watch. I know it was helpful for me. And I look forward to more initiatives that we will press on with for the rest of the season.
Nikki K, Spectrum.
Hey, Nneka, just a little follow-up to that, knowing how much you carry as a president of the WNBPA, as a leader on your team, as a family member, how do you, when you get overwhelmed by, changing the world, how do you kind of step back and look maybe addressing things one issue at a time, as a woman and someone who cares so much about what's going on in society?
And a lot of times when you feel as though you're kind of being spread thin, or you feel as though there's so many things going on, I feel that it's best for me to just be in the moment and to live by what it is that I am trying to represent, or what it is that I am trying to bring awareness to. You can get caught up in the planning and the organizing and the amplifying of such initiatives, but if you take a second and just really look around and try to be in the moment, whether you're in a practice, whether you're in a game, whether you're in between any of that, and just being a light in your life and in someone else's, I feel as though is kind of that small gem that can contribute to the bigger cause.
Roscoe Van Woode with Twitter Sports.
Nneka Nader, what's up?
Hey, Russell.
Hey, girl. All right, I got a Pac-12 oriented question. Christina Nigwe, when she was coming up, often got compared to the Ogwumike sisters. What are you shedding light with her? What are you seeing with how she's making the most of her opportunity here and growing?
Oh man, Chris. She is certainly one of a kind. I've actually had the pleasure of kind of getting to know her a little bit, because her former coach, Wendell Farrow, was one of our practice players with the Sparks. And so he's my good friend. And I've been able to communicate with Chris throughout her college career a little bit. And to find her on the team has been amazing. I think that it goes without saying that she's a raw talent, but she's also incredibly receptive, almost sometimes too receptive to input and coaches. She's always asking questions like I did. But she's a true gamer, at times we feel as though we just kind of want to let her be instinctual, let her be instinctive and trust herself. And when she's that way, she's really a difficult guard, and someone you very much want on the team. And I just really love her willingness to want to do better all the time. She has a great work ethic, and we're really happy to have her.
Time for two more. Michelle Vopel, ESPN.
Oh.
Hello, Nneka. I wondered what you think of the fact that there's players that have opted out, we don't have, but the talent level is still so high. And what does that say about some of the people who have stepped forward this season? Maybe we didn't get a chance to see how good they are before, but that like I said, that level still stays just as high, even if we don't have some of some big names that aren't playing.
Yeah, I'm glad that you recognize that, because, this season one, it was such an incredibly hard choice whether to decide to play or not to play. But with that, it provided an opportunity for players who would have otherwise maybe not have been recognized to truly show their talents and make a name for themselves as we play in the bubble this season. I'm excited to know that new players are being covered. I was actually just talking to Rebecca Lobo about this the other day. Maybe it's the spirit of CBA and negotiating a bubble season, and obviously everything going on in 2020 and the role that I've played as a president, but I feel very much like a crusader, especially for all the players in the league. And I wouldn't feel as though I was doing my job if I didn't recognize that more players need to be recognized. And I'm looking forward to the second half of the season as we see how things unfold, but also a lot of the talent that is being featured that is really creating a name for themselves and for the league as well, as we have more games on TV.
Last question for today, Adam Grossbart, LA Daily News.
Hey, Nneka. Tomorrow marks the midway point of the season for you guys. I don't know how time is working there in the bubble, but does it feel like you're midway through the season? Does it feel like you've been there for months? Is it hard to believe you're halfway through?
It feels like we're halfway through. I don't really know how else to say that I feel like it's going fast or slow. We've been here for about 6 weeks now. It feels like 6 weeks. I can't say that it feels like we've played 10 games up until this point. It feels like more because we've been playing every other day for a few weeks now, but we're used to it. It is what it is. We're going to come out here, stay safe, be healthy, put some good basketball on, and obviously play to win. And right now, I'd have to say that so far, the bubble is the bubble.
Thank you, Nneka.
Thanks, everyone.